Hi, everybody. Welcome to the December episode of Plant Powered Conversations that Sprout Ethical Change. I'm Johanna, and I'm here with my friend and co-host Brieanah.
Hey guys.
And that's not all. Today, we're really excited to introduce a very special guest. For this episode, our very first guest, actually, joining today is Sandra Nomoto. She's the ethical marketer and book whisperer, a health-conscious vegan, author, solopreneur who works with ethical businesses and authors. She lives and works in Vancouver, British Columbia. So welcome to Plant Powered, Sandra. It's really, really awesome to have you here with us.
Thanks, Johanna and Brieanah. I'm so stoked to be here. Long-time lurker of your channel. So yeah, super honored to be your first guest.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I just very briefly introduced you, but we would love to hear from more from your, like in your own words. So could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your mission, why you do what you do?
Sure. Yeah, so I am a second generation Canadian. I identify as a Filipina, so I'm a woman of color. My background is in public relations. So that was my first business, which I closed in 2018. And that was the year that I went vegan. So that was a journey that took me 11 years. It took me a long time to get there, but yeah, 5.5 years in now. So yay me. And yeah, after I closed that business, I didn't think that I wanted to stay in marketing. I wanted a good 10-foot pole away from marketing. Yeah, but I spent about 1.5 years after that trying to figure out my next career path. And I sat down to meditate at the end of 2019, and my intuition just gave me that booming voice and said, "You're vegan now and you will always be writing." So put those two things together. And I know enough times when I ignore my intuition, it just comes back to me louder a few years later. So, so I heeded that call and went, okay. So I threw a service page up on my personal website, which is still the website I use today, and just tapped into my network and said, who do you know who runs a vegan business, who needs help with content writing? And that's really how my business started in 2020. And thank you to the pandemic, I had more time on my hands that year. And so I started I started studying editing and formatting because I thought to myself, books are the longest piece of content one could work on. And I've always been fascinated about book publishing. I self-published my first book in 2019. And yeah, and then that got me into working with authors. And so today I identify as you said, my new title that I'm using now is ethical marketer and book whisperer. So that kind of tells people that I do marketing for businesses, which have to be vegan. And then authors are the other bucket of clients that I work with. And authors don't need to be vegan. I like to say authors with impact. So as long as as long as folks have a story or expertise that they want to share with the world that's bringing positivity to people in some way, that's the criteria for me to work with an author. So yeah, and then all that to say, my mission is again to use my business skills in whatever way that I can to improve or solve the problems that we have in this world. So the problems that I see on the business side are that corporations run the world. And if we're not supporting corporations that are ethical and good for us, the animals and the planet, then we are part of that problem. And same thing on the author side. Again, authors, I think, can impact people on a personal level. And so if we are, again, investing our money and time into working with authors and being inspired by stories that impact people positively, then that's what I'm all about.
Wow.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I'm so glad that you're in the movement, making a difference. And one thing we always like to ask people when we meet them, Johanna and I have shared our stories of why, but I'd love to know your why vegan. What made you make the switch? What's your origin story, so to speak?
Yeah. So when I heard the word vegan at some point in childhood, and then yeah, whenever it came back into my consciousness as an adult, I thought to myself, yeah, that's actually the most ethical way to eat or to live. I didn't even think about the other lifestyle impacts at that point. But it wasn't until I saw the movie Earthlings at the end of 2007 where that's when I really learned, okay, this is how our food is made. And then I was forever impacted by that. The goal was to be vegan, but I knew that I didn't set a timeline for myself. I didn't say, you know, I want to do it within a year or 5 years. I just kind of like went through this gradual process to make it happen. So it took me about 2 years to cut meat out of my diet. And then for a good chunk of time, I was still technically pescatarian. So learning how to cook vegan or vegetarian during the week. And then maybe on weekends, I would still eat some dairy and seafood. Even though I've never been a fan of eggs or seafood. And then and then my last seafood meal was during my honeymoon in 2017 in New York City with my husband. We ate at Iron Chef Morimoto's restaurant. And I thought to myself, it's not going to get any better than this. So I'm going to leave on a high note. So that was my last seafood meal. And then from there on, it was just dairy. So I gave up dairy about a year after that because of health reasons. Like I didn't know until about a year after that most people of color are actually insensitive to dairy. And I've had these digestive issues, really horrible, that had gone undiagnosed by my health team for a long time. And finally, I went back to my naturopath in the spring of 2018 and said, I need more answers. And she said, let's try a food sensitivity test. And that's when I found out I was sensitive to dairy, among other things. And then I did this 4-month cleanse, and it came at the end of that cleanse. And I thought, that wasn't too hard. So I think I can do this forever. So of course, when you get over the hurdle of diet, everything else is so much easier. Of course, I still have, you know, a down duvet, right? That is going to take me a while to replace. But fashion choices, household products, like all of that is so much easier once you get over diet.
It's so true. So true. And I love that you took a progressive approach to it. People always think that it's like a abolitionist thing that they have to quit immediately or it will never work. And they get so scared to try. Do you have any advice from your journey of what you would share with someone that's thinking about making the switch or has tried and failed, quote unquote, in the past?
Yeah. Don't listen to anyone else. Listen to yourself and your own body. There's definitely, it's not a race. I think that given the products that we have now, the alternatives that we have now, if I had these back when I started, it would probably have been so much faster for me. So it took me 11 years, but that's only because I just didn't have great options in terms of substitutes. Of course, you don't need the substitutes, but I find that a lot of people, when they think, like, I talk to people who say to me, I would love to go vegan. I just, like, they can't even fathom not eating meat and going straight to a whole food plant-based diet, which a lot of people know is the healthiest diet anyway. But to get there, substitutes really help you. Right. And that, you know, the price might be a barrier for some people. So I think if you don't have a problem with substitutes, that is your bridge, and you can probably do it in a year. Like, I'm just throwing a number out there, but I think I would have been able to do that in a year. If you want to make the leap from meat eater to whole food plant-based, like, it just depends on how good you are at cooking and how much of that plant world you want to bring into your cooking repertoire. So I think either way you do it, it's definitely not impossible. If I tell people, if I could do it, anyone can do it. And I don't think it needs to take as long as it took me. It took me 11 years, but I definitely think you can do it much faster.
Yeah. And I think it's just important to remember with this, as with everything, like, everybody has their own journey. It's just so, like, we have such different backgrounds. Like, this reminded me, I just listened to a podcast. It was in Finnish about the vegan movement, and there was a person who had actually like a 5-year plan to become vegan, and it was the first time I ever heard like somebody really have this plan, and they had like food disorder background and everything, like reasons to really take it like slowly and being like mindful of their body and needs. And I think it's really cool.
I love that.
Anyway.
Making a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Well, and when you start thinking about marketing too, when your people are taking this progressive approach to it, it can become such a challenge. Like, how do you speak to people when they're all over the map of where they are? Are you speaking to the person that's already veg friendly or is curious? And so I bet you run into that a lot in what you do. And perhaps in writing the book, you had that in mind. I just love to hear more about the why behind the book and who you were trying to speak to and the stories that you collected there.
Yeah, so the idea for the book came in 2021, around the time of my birthday. An intuitive told me, "Your spirit guides are saying you're going to write a book." And I went, "Really?" I had no idea, but I just kept thinking to myself, what could I possibly write a book on? I knew it would be nonfiction because I just don't write fiction. And then around the summertime, I thought about vegan marketing because that's my world now. And I Googled, and not only was there not yet a book about marketing in the vegan world, but there was only one book about vegan businesses out there. And that was Katrina Fox's Vegan Ventures, which she published in 2015. And so that was 6 years already since that book had passed. And I went, really? Like, that's it? And so I just knew that I had to add to this market, this underserved market. Um, and so, so I started building my ideal list of folks that I would approach to submit a marketing story or a case study for the book. So I started with a list of about 200 companies and thought, yeah, if I reach out to 200, I should be able to get 50. 50 stories. And that list ended up extending to almost 280 because either the folks said no, they didn't want to participate, or I didn't hear back from them, even after following up. So I got a total of 47 stories back. So in it, but also as I was writing the book, like I wanted at least one example, one real life example of every tactic that I talked about. So in addition, I pulled examples from just stories, articles that I found online and got permission from the companies to use those examples. So in addition to the 47 stories, there are another, almost 50 companies added to that. So that's almost 100 vegan businesses mentioned in the book.
That's amazing. And in case we haven't said the name yet, because I'm not sure, I might have blanked out on that. It is Vegan Marketing Success Stories. And we'll link to it under this video to make sure that anyone interested can see it. Sorry, John, you want to?
No, that's good. It was in my mind too. We need to like mention it again, but like, congratulations. I was reading through the book like in the last days. I mean, it is massive. Like you it's I'm like in all of the work you've done, and I just like wanted to like highlight a little bit. Like, I mean, it covers everything. It's like from networking to traditional advertising to PR and like digital marketing, events, everything. So I wonder what has the reception been like? And I mean, also I'm amazed that so many people got back to you. It seems like there's really this, like, the people want to share their stories, because I think that's a really high percentage of people, getting back to you and sharing their stories, or yeah. Is there like,
I think
like
definitely from the folks who responded and shared stories, the reception has been positive.
Yeah.
I got maybe there were a few that came back that weren't really a story. They gave me back one sentence, and unfortunately I couldn't use that. A few of those, and and in terms of the companies that did respond, I found that they were mostly small to medium. Like I was really hoping that the corporations that are working with $1 million budgets did respond, and so that we would get a glimpse of, hey, what do you do with $1 million budget? But unfortunately, those folks have marketing teams, and those folks are very busy. So I didn't get any of those. So but that's kind of how it goes. And so I think what happens now is that if you're a startup, or if you're in that small to medium size, this is the book for you, right? You're not going to get an idea of what to do with $1 million budget. I always try and ask, when people tell me that they've bought my book, I'm so grateful. And I say, please review. So, and I don't have a lot of reviews. The reviews that I've gotten back have been generally, for the most part, positive. So I'm so grateful for that. And the book won a Vegan Choice Award earlier this year, which I'm super stoked about, along with like Earthling Ed's This is Vegan Propaganda, and other really great authors. So super happy about that. And then I've been asked to speak at several summits or events as a result of the book too. So that's also just kind of brought that, I guess, spotlight to me that I didn't expect.
Yeah. Kind of like a follow-up question, like based on your book or the stories you've heard, or something else, like what's one success, like vegan marketing success story that you would maybe like to highlight here, something that everybody could learn from, or if not everybody, like I guess we're mostly people who are listening to this are probably like small, medium business owners. So
one of the ones that I love telling is that of Meredith Marin. So if you're not familiar with her, she currently runs a company called Vegan Hospitality. But before she started this business, she relocated with her husband, who's originally from Aruba. So they relocated from the US to Aruba in 2016. And as a vegan, she found herself with not great options, both at the supermarket and at restaurants. And she really took it upon herself to pretty much make this island vegan friendly. So she started with chefs at restaurants and just contacting them and saying, hey, what can you make for me? And from them learning, what her needs were, that brought in the food that was needed to the supermarkets. And then she took it upon herself to really educate people on what veganism was and why it was important. So any media opportunity that she was offered, she taught vegan cooking classes. She got some really great media mentions. So travel magazines that were in every hotel room in Aruba, and in the backs of airline seats flying to Aruba. And then in 2018, she got the opportunity to partner with the Aruba Tourism Authority to sponsor an influencer trip. So they sponsored, I believe it was 6 vegan influencers from the US, brought them to Aruba, showed them a good time. And of course, they produced a lot of content from that. And a lot of that is still the top ranking content when you search vegan and Aruba. I also failed to mention she started social media accounts under Vegan Aruba, use the hashtag so that people traveling to Aruba, could find out what options there were for them when they came. So as a result of all of this, boots on the ground, almost single-handedly doing marketing around this island, the app Happy Cow named Aruba the most vegan friendly island in the Caribbean. I don't know when this was. I'm gonna guess between 2018 and 2020. So that's all because of Meredith's efforts. And like I mentioned, now she runs a company called Vegan Hospitality. So if you want to do exactly what she did in Aruba, but where you live, you can take her program and learn all of pretty much everything that she did, and that's going to help us bring about a more vegan economy in a vegan world.
Wow, that's so cool. Thanks so much for sharing.
That's a story. Wow.
Yeah. When I read it, I was like, whoa, like powerhouse. And it's so inspiring because, people might be listening and thinking like, I'm vegan and I don't, maybe I'm one of a few vegans in my community. What impact can I have? Well, there you go. That's the impact you have.
And it shows the power of social media. You said that she got the word out, used the SEO capabilities of Instagram and things with the hashtags. Like people either have the dream of going viral or they're like, oh, I'm never going to get anywhere on social media, and it just shows what's possible when you use it as a tool and you really lean in to its capabilities. But with that, I'm sure that you also ran across some mistakes, some whoopsies in this movement and the business owners might want others to learn from. Do any stick out to you that you'd want to share?
Because I think I shared the tentative title, which again was around vegan marketing success. A lot of people did not share failure stories. But the one that comes to mind is Vicado, which is a pet food company, vegan pet food company in Toronto, Ontario. And they shared that, there was a study that came out about sled dogs doing very well on plant-based food. And they were excited about that. And so they shared a photo of sled dogs as they shared the news about that study. And so their social media followers did not appreciate that. Um,
Yeah.
rightly so. They received a bit of backlash. However, they rectified it. They apologized. They, promised to do better. And that actually was a success story for them because they did good on the mistake that they made. They actually they said that they deleted the post, which I don't always recommend because sometimes it's nice to show that you've made a mistake. But yeah, that was the success story that they submitted, and that all came out from a mistake. And so that's the one failure to success story that I have in the book.
I'm glad that it turned into a happy ending. For those that might not be aware, I'm imagining that was probably because the dogs were being forced to pull a sled. Is that the backlash?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make that full circle for anyone questioning. Very cool. Thanks for answering that.
What do you wish like everybody understood about marketing on any level, foundational or or not? Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding there.
Yeah, the first thing that I want to say is that everyone's strategy is different. I like by kind of throwing it all out there in this book and telling people here are all the possible things you could do. Hopefully that tells people like it's going to be a different mix for your company versus a competitor's company. And also because your audience is going to be slightly different too. So even if you were to copy whatever your competitor is doing, it might not land exactly the same with your audience. So everybody's got their own, cocktail strategy that's going to work for them. And it is all trial and error, right? You might try one tactic for 1 month and it's just it's not working. So you got to drop that for a while and try something else. So in terms of like, yeah, just high level strategy, that's what I would want to say. I've been asked a lot about basics. Where do people start? Because you've given them like 100 different tactics they can use. Where should people start if like they're just launching? So what I call my 4 basics are number 1, website. And that might sound like super obvious, but I come across businesses all the time that are just on Instagram. Everything is done through Instagram. And that's super scary because that you don't own that platform. Meta could go down for a day, which it has in the past. And if it does, that's your business. So you got to have a website. Number 2, have blogs on that website. And I know that doesn't sound very sexy. Nobody cares about blogs, but it's not about whether or not people read them. It's actually for search engine optimization, because the more content you have on your website and the more keyword rich it is, the more people will find you on Google. That's what the blogs are for. Number 3, social media. Of course, I'm not going to talk about like what platforms to use. That's going to be different for everyone. But that's just how you grow and nurture an audience. That's how people find out about you. That's how you build a community. And number 4, email list, because again, if a social media platform goes down, if your website is under construction, you always need a way to contact your audience, and you own your email list. So definitely start an email list and nurture that community. And those are my 4 basics. Like that's where you start. And then depending on the more time or resources and budget you have, there are always more things you can do. You can layer on advertising with social media. Media, like there's tons of other things you can do, but I would say those are the 4 basics to start with. And let's say you're already mastering those basics. You want to know what to do next. I would say, now that this book has been out for about a year now, the folks that I see, especially in the vegan world, that are really like they've got a really strong brand and are growing an audience, are the folks who have taken one or a few marketing tactics and really made them their own. They're known for that tactic, and they do it over and over and over again. People like repetition. That is how we learn. That is how we know, oh, that company does that.
Yeah.
And so once you've surpassed the basics, you're growing your audience, start like one or a few angles that you will then be known for, because that's how we get the omnivores starting to pay attention to vegan companies.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. That was like a mini masterclass there. I hope people are paying attention. Thanks so much for sharing.
Rewind it and write some notes, guys.
Yeah.
That was gold. Could I jump in real quick, Johanna?
Yeah, go
I
for it.
wanted to just kind of piggyback off of that, I guess, because the ethical piece in your title and your perspective and your mission is interesting. It gets like a 50-50 draw. And at least in my experience, where people are like, oh, I don't know what that means, or like, yes, that's my person. Like, she gets it. Why ethical for you, and how has that informed your marketing perspective?
Yeah, I think ethical it means different things to different folks. So thinking about what it means to me is just trying to do the best you can as a person, right?
Okay.
Like before I even started on this vegan journey, I was into sustainability, and I was trying in my personal life to be as eco as possible. And then the animals kind of fit into that. I think and in my previous business, so with my agency Conscious PR, these are the circles that I tried to run in. You know, I was certified as a B Corp twice. I was a member of 1% for the Planet. I was an alumnus of the Social Venture Institute conference. And now that I'm vegan, what I realize, those folks in those communities, as ethical as they are, they have not taken into account many times the animals that we share this planet with. Like the fact, just the amount that we consume animals for food and otherwise is just so astronomical. I cannot even, like, you both know, because you're vegan, how much we use animals, and it's just it's an abomination. It really is, if you know the information, if you've seen it. And so using that word ethical marketer. So I started out as vegan copywriter. I switched to the content doctor to be more inclusive. And then now I'm using ethical marketer because when people come to me and say, okay, I run an ethical business, I want to work with you with my marketing. And if they use animals in their business, I'm sorry, but you're not an ethical business, because you're using animals. You're consciously using animals in your business. And so it's kind of like my subtle way of teaching folks, and again, I know categories are not great, but yeah, that's just my viewpoint. Like if you're using animals in your business, you're not an ethical business. I'm sorry. Maybe you're sustainable in some way, but you have not thought about the animals, and there are always better ways to run a business without using animals.
Absolutely. And we love some specificity around here. John and I both are like, get specific. And so I'm glad that you're using it personally, and that you're also using it as a point to teach people when they apply to work with you. And no, not quite there, but here's how you could if you're still interested. It's a very compassionate way to use it.
I'm curious, like, does that lead to conversations with people? Like, if they approach you and they're not vegan, like, do you just say like, no thanks, or you start a conversation or education? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I really have not had these conversations yet, because most of the folks who come to me are either vegan or their business is already vegan. But it is very clear on my website what I mean when I say I work with cruelty-free businesses. It's not just cruelty-free in the sense that, you can't be testing on animals. It's the removal of animal products. So maybe that's an additional filter that, people already use to not get in touch with me. Yeah.
So I think with being an author and a marketer, you're a master storyteller. I think that's safe to say, right? I wonder if you have any tips on how to tell better stories, or what advice you would give to people to be engaging with their content or their marketing strategy, because marketers can say like, oh, you have to tell a story all day long until they're blue in the face, but the client might not always know exactly what that means. So I would love to hear a little insight into how you explain it to people that are not in this marketing world, aren't deep into the principles of storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, what I see is just, yeah, again, people not even, like, what's your origin story? Like, I don't see that enough. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of companies that you go to their about page and it's like, here's what we do. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. But who founded it and why? You know what I mean? Again, that comes back to just my background of like, do I jive with this company in terms of values? Um, I mean, even the ones that are talking about values have a little bit of a leg up on the ones who don't have an origin story at all. But I think in this world of like, you know, Zuckerberg's and Bezos's, like we even like that's why people gravitate and support those companies because we know how they were founded. So you as a founder have to share your story about why you created this company. Otherwise, you're just like every other brand on the grocery shelf. Why should we care about you? Right? So I would say that's what's missing a lot. I feel like it's not on the about page and it's definitely not in the content, right? I know that a lot of CEOs probably aren't going to be, you know, again, like you said, on a daily basis, showing their faces and doing videos. But if that's even a little bit in there, you've got a leg up on the folks who aren't even doing that. What else? Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I had something else
No,
to
no,
say, but
that
I
was
think that's a good place to start.
that's definitely a great place to start is with your story, your why, and especially in this movement. Like, why'd you go vegan? Why a vegan business? Um, why do you care about animals? Because you're speaking to your audience that's at least curious in how they can support animals or the environment, right? That's socially conscious in these ways. So I think sharing your why and your story is so important.
Yeah, the thought came to me as you were saying, sharing your values. I think
Yeah.
increasingly, you know, they say Gen Z is a generation that like really cares. They might not have the dollars to spend right now, but in terms of values, if you are not putting your values out there and you don't know, like you don't stand for anything, you're not going to attract younger customers and you're not going to last. So that's the second part of what I was going to say. It's just like, you gotta stand for something. Because again, it's the business world is super cluttered and there's already so many competitors. So that's one of the ways that you can stand out is just by sharing your values and what you stand for.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think I'm just like repeating a little bit, but like what I at some point kind of also understood that, hey, like business owners like us, like most of us are so like the why is so clear, like we're so like mission driven and people care more and more about this and they will start to care even more. So it's like, yeah, we really have this one strength over a lot of other businesses who don't have like such a strong why. So really like, yeah, wish more people made use of it because it really like, yeah, builds this connection with your people. So one final question, Sandra, what's your favorite type of marketing at the moment, for example, and why? What do you like to do yourself, or where you've had like a particular success?
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. I am like an anti-marketer. I hate like I am my own brand and so I do everything myself. And I have a system. That's how I maintain my sanity because I know that I have to do these things. Yeah, I don't particularly enjoy it. But yeah, but I am very organized and that's how I manage to do it. And so I mean what I do is I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. I post there about 5 times a week. I do blogs every week. Networking is one way that I get clients. Yeah, nothing very exciting. And so I shared actually a video a number of months ago about how I got like my top month for this year. It was all because of boring stuff. So first of all, I launched a new service earlier this year that I had been just trying to get agencies, local agencies here in town to pay attention to and tell their clients. And I feel like I was kind of like just beating my drum. Nothing was happening. And then I told a client that like I hadn't worked with for a number of months about this new service. And she's like, oh, I'll buy your media list, your local media list. And I was like, that's all it took. Just like reaching out to my clients that weren't active. So that was one. And then again, blogging. Like, when I started, I was blogging about once a month. I stepped it up, to weekly when like leading up to the launch of my book. And then I kind of went back to a monthly rotation. And then I decided to step it up again to weekly in, this summer. And it only took about a month for, like authors tend to just find my blogs and that's how they reach out to me. So this one blogger about a month later reached out and she's like, I need a ghostwriter. And then that became like my top client for the year. So it for me, at least, it's all of this boring stuff that that makes the difference.
Yeah.
For others, it might be something different. But I love it when like my favorite, because I follow a lot of vegan companies, are just the folks that are doing something different. I just came across this happened just this past week actually. There's a documentary called The Smell of Money, which was produced in the US. It just has finished the festival circuit and now it's available on Google Play and Apple TV. But it can be hard to get people to pay attention to, like, go and you have to buy this movie to stream it. And so Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara, who are both like huge in the vegan world, are actually giving people their money back if for the first 500 American people who buy the film online. So I was like so sad when I found out like I can't take part in this because like I don't have Apple TV or Google Play, and I'm also not in the US. But yeah, and that made me think of rebates. That's exactly what a rebate is. You buy something and then the company reimburses you for it. And I was like, why didn't I put this in my book? Like, rebates are so underutilized. So it's stuff that like this that I come across that I don't see used ever. I mean, like, I haven't done a rebate in probably like 20 years. But I was like, good for you, Smell of Money documentary, and getting Joaquin and Rooney to on board to do that, because I think it's freaking brilliant. Like, that's how you get people to watch the film, because once people watch the film, they'll tell their friends and family and so on and so on. And that's how we spread this message.
I love that. And I love the networking, like human piece of all of that. I love the networking piece of all of that. And because even business owners can go into their network or past clients that have purchased from them before and re-engage them. They can offer rebates, they can offer specials. You can just get so creative with marketing. It doesn't have to be so salesy and like buy now that marketing sometimes gets this bad rap for. It really is relationship building and getting to know your audience and getting to know who's interested. So I love that story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and great point. It's definitely not all about selling. As we've said, it's all about storytelling. Like what's going on here in your business that's new. Or like for me, my content is mostly educational, like talking about, the author's journey, what book publishing is about, like marketing tips. Like rarely am I saying like buy something from me, because that's just like, I'm B2B and I'm also service based for the most part. So it's just like, that's not going to work for me anyway. So you just got to find like what kind of content your audience wants from you and just keep doing more of that.
I think that's a great place to stop. Thank you so much for all the wisdom you've shared. This has been like a really, really amazing conversation. And yeah, where can our listeners and viewers learn more about you if they want to follow you or work with you?
Yeah, it's been so fun talking with you both. I really enjoyed it. I'm everywhere with my name, Sandra Nomoto. My website is where you'll find my book and everything, all my services. Same thing on social media. One thing I do want to plug is my newsletter. So I'm really putting a lot of resources into my monthly newsletter. And so all subscribers get chapter 1 of my book and just a whole host of free and low cost resources that I offer. And then I believe I'm the only person who shares marketing wins of vegan companies around the world every month. That's the one, the main part of my newsletter. And so if that interests you at all, please sign up on my website or just message me and I'll give you the direct subscription link.
Cool.
I can definitely testify that your newsletter is amazing. Every time I open it, I'm like, how does she do this? This is incredible.
Thank you. And your channel will probably almost always make a mention in it because of the content that you both work on. So yeah, hopefully that continues.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see you next time in 2024.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you for plugging that, Joanna. It's the end of the year. It feels so far away. But yes, we
Yeah.
will be back in January.
Cool.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.